Okay, Canada has seriously stepped up for Ukraine and given billions of dollars along with every other conceivable form of support. But hearing that is just not good enough for me. I want to know what we did, what was bought, and how it's making a difference for the people of Ukraine. Stick around to hear about the latest commitments. Now come with me as I find out if the juice has been worth the squeeze.
No.
From early in the fighting, Canada has positioned itself as one of the top countries contributing to Ukraine, only surpassed by the US, UK, Poland, and Germany. In total, over 40 countries have now given some form of support to the Ukrainian people, and while thankful, President Zelensky has made it very clear what he needs to win.
Guns. Lots of guns.
Yes, thank you, Neo. Collectively defined as lethal aid, these are the weapons and military equipment that make the enemy go sleep sleep. Historically, these are not something that Canada will hand over lightly, but times are changing, and support for lethal aid is now rapidly approaching $2 billion. It currently includes 4 M777 howitzers, 8 Senator armored personnel carriers, 4,500 M72 rocket launchers, 100 Carl Gustaf recoilless rifles, 7,500 hand grenades, and to top it all off, $7 million worth of small arms and their ammunition. We have also sent 39 armored combat support vehicles nicknamed Super Bisons, which have just been observed arriving on the front lines. Originally intended for the Canadian Armed Forces, these modern 30-ton beasts can cover a variety of tasks from ambulance to troop carriers. Now, does any of this mean that the CAF will get new stuff? Of course not. Focus. Ukraine is claiming they have 700,000 active personnel. That's a lot of troops to equip properly while your country is on fire. So it's good news that Canada is helping here by providing non-lethal military aid, and that means donating things like night vision goggles, a variety of winter gear, ration packs, 1,600 fragmentation vests, great because I don't want them, and a number of helmets. Undoubtedly, making more of an impact than those delicious rations is Canada's expenditure towards tracking Russian troop movements through modern satellite imagery. This will allow guns like those 777s to be put to maximum effect. Various surveillance and detection equipment were also donated, along with ongoing cyber warfare support and expertise. Disappointingly, Ukraine has not shown up to our garage to pick all of this up, and Amazon wasn't really an option either. All of this material had to make it to the front line somehow, and it should go without saying that bill was on us. An air task force group with 50 Canadian Forces personnel moved this mountain of material. In war, it's often the civilian population that suffers the most. Canada has committed $245 million in humanitarian assistance. These funds will give the most basic needs for those 8 million Ukrainians who are fleeing danger, many of them to Canada. Is it news to you that outside of their country, Canada holds the world's second largest Ukrainian population? With nearly 1.4 million people settled, our connection to Ukraine is strong. It should be no surprise then that we have resettled 132,000 refugees across Canada, while also committing to take as many more as necessary. This accelerated process is through an emergency travel measure that gives temporary resident status for a stay of up to 3 years. Community outreach to welcome these individuals has been, unsurprisingly, incredibly Canadian. On the other side of the polite Canadian scale is Vladimir Putin, and if your bad behavior has ever lost you an allowance, then you might understand how he feels right now. Using political pressure such as sanctions, Canada has placed the squeeze on over 1,400 individuals and entities. These actions have frozen assets and removed privileges for those who support this invasion or stand to profit from it. Whoa, don't look over there. Intelligence reporting indicates this political pressure will create problems for the Russian war machine, who will find it increasingly difficult to replace ammunition, vehicles, and materials. The average Russian citizen will also unfortunately continue to suffer from a loss of goods and services. We took away their dang McDonald's. What have we done? To reduce this economic suffering inside of Ukraine, Canada has dispersed over $620 million in financial relief. This will help keep the lights on and the heat running. There have been no signs of slowing down this support into the new year either. An additional $500 million in military aid was recently committed, including a top-up of 155mm shells, specialized drone camera systems, and additional winter clothing straight out of the CAF inventory. Have fun with those hand-me-downs. Besides this money and material, it may be the education and experience we have passed down that is making the most impact. 34,000 Ukrainian troops have been professionally trained by the Canadian military since 2015. Undoubtedly, these men and women went on to form a solid foundation against the numerous invading forces. Through their European operations, Canada has since doubled down on this training alongside their NATO partners. Now, in my humble opinion, the most exciting contribution may be the advanced surface-to-air missile systems Canada will purchase from the United States. Costing us $406 million, these systems will be donated in an effort to protect against drone, missile, and aircraft, all of which are increasingly targeting civilian areas. Very recently, a newer commitment of 200 additional Senator armored vehicles totaling $90 million was made for Ukraine. Interestingly, our first contribution of 8 vehicles were quietly removed from the front lines after they were found to be extremely vulnerable to rockets and mines. Now I expect the next 200 vehicles to also find their way into the hands of police and border patrol units who will use them primarily in non-combat roles. Just last week, the UK pledged to give 14 of their Challenger tanks, and now Western leaders are discussing whether or not to hand over their own main battle tanks. If this happens, it would greatly improve Ukraine's ability to attack and counterattack after the expected offensives coming up in the spring. This decision will also drive mounting pressure on Canada to match such contributions. So what do you think? Should we hand over our precious Leopard tanks, a resource we already hold in such short supply? The combined aid and support Canada has given is now so overwhelming that it is difficult to track proper updated figures, and the current total sits somewhere around 3.5 billion Canadian, with some estimates sitting even higher. It goes to show that Canadians have a proud reputation for pitching in on a good cause, and although we don't always get it 100% right, we do show up when the work needs to get done. This war is no exception. So when this particular chapter of human suffering comes to an end, I fully expect Canada to step up once more with an open wallet. But what do you think? Should we be doing more or less for the people of Ukraine? Subscribe for our next videos covering the Super Bison and that sweet air defense system which Canada just might purchase for itself one day down the road.